Hello again and welcome to the channel. Today we'll be doing a special episode about blackspot resistant roses for those of you who have a lot of problems with blackspot. And there's many things to say about blackspot. Blackspot can be because you water your roses too much from above directly on the leaf. It can also be because your rose is too stressed from you not watering it at all, and there's a dry period, and its immune system gets weakened. To be precise, the hormones in the immune system. So there's many things that can go wrong with blackspot. But lucky for us, there's also some plant varieties, some rose varieties that are much more resistant to blackspot. So that's what we'll go over today. And we will start with Austin roses, I think. So let's go over the first Austin rose, and it will come as no surprise to you. The first Austin rose to score highly for me on blackspot resistance and also health is Olivia Rose Austin. Olivia Rose Austin is an extremely healthy rose, and you really wouldn't have much problems with blackspot on this one. Also really floriferous, really healthy. It's, in my honest opinion, it's the most healthy rose he made, and it is a wonderful rose. Of course, it can get blackspot. It sometimes happens in December, January. But really, it's after like 5 flushes or something like that, 4 to 5 flushes, and sometimes it's because it's so healthy, it's not even defoliating itself even in the frost. So, but it will be extremely blackspot resistant, extremely. A really excellent rose for blackspot resistance. So let's go back here and see what our next Austin rose is. Yeah, so next Austin rose to win for blackspot resistant. I would say it's about 3 to 5% under Olivia Rose Austin. And that rose is Princess Anne rose, also from Austin. And Princess Anne is nearly just as healthy, as floriferous, and as blackspot resistant as Olivia Rose Austin. And she has this wonderful color change on top. So it is really a plant I think you should give a chance in your garden, because it has this really unique color and this beautiful progression in color as it fades. So definitely a really healthy rose that will also be really blackspot resistant for you from Austin. And let's go back here to our list and see what's next. Yes, the third rose from Austin I will give a mention is a rose called Silas Manor. Silas Manor rose. And Silas Manor, again, extremely healthy. If I had to rank them, I would say Olivia Rose Austin is excellent, and Princess Anne and Silas Manor are very good. And a lot of things below that in the Austin segment. There's one more I'll give an honorable mention. I don't believe it's excellent like Olivia Rose Austin, but I still believe it's worth mentioning in the Austin segment, and that is Eustacia Y. Eustacia Y is also pretty healthy. But if in doubt, I would say the varieties to go with is Olivia Rose Austin, Princess Anne, and Silas Manor. I've also noticed my like ascending is also pretty resistant to a lot of diseases. So there's that. But really, you won't go wrong with Olivia Rose Austin, Princess Anne, and Silas Manor. Those are probably my top picks from the Austin segment. And one annoying thing I will mention about Austin roses is Austin roses in general are the ones who suffer the most from blackspot. I think it's because they breed a lot of their roses very close to the old garden roses, and the old garden roses had this very matte, very more lime-colored leaf. And sadly, that type of leaf and the old historic roses were also more black spots susceptible. So sadly, you see with a lot of Austin roses that they get black spot and they get a lot of it. But as I mentioned, Olivia Rose Austin, Princess Anne, and Silas Marner are some roses from the Austin segment that'll do you really well. So, and let's just continue here to our next breeder. The next breeder is Tantau roses, and Tantau is of course a German company. And the German companies for rose breeding actually do really well when it comes to black spot. There's so many good options in both Tantau and what we'll go later, Codès roses, because they tend to, just like in Danish roses, where they tend to breed for black spot resistance, because you get a lot of rain both in Denmark and in Germany, so you have to breathe a completely different way in these rose programs, because it's not like France, it's not like England where there's not a lot of rain. You really get a lot of rain in both Denmark and Germany, so the roses in those two places are much more black spot resistant. But let's go over here to search engine again. The first one I'll recommend from Tantau roses is Hansestad Rostock rose. It's a new rose from them, but mine has been absolutely black spot resistant. Been a really good, healthy rose. You can almost also see it here, how waxy these leaves look, like really green, shiny leaves. And that's what you typically see in both Danish and German roses, because these type of leaf are very black spot resistant, in my opinion. So and can better stand up to the rain. So you will see a lot of German and Danish roses are more bred towards having these more dark, shiny leaves, because it's easier for water to run off it. And yeah, so it's one of those traits of a lot of Danish and German roses, that they tend to have these really shiny leaves. But let's take the next one from Tantau, and the next one is Modern Art. Modern Art has also been an extremely healthy rose for me, and really floriferous. It's like, I would say it's like Tantau's answer for Olivia Rose Austin. It's just simply a flower machine that's extremely healthy. Suffers very little from disease. It's just an amazing rose, really, if you're searching for those criterias. And let's go over the next one. The next one is more of an older pick from Tantau, and it is the Chippendale rose. And the Chippendale rose, in my opinion, is also really good for health. If I had to rank them, like I did with Austin roses, I would say that Hansestad Rostock and Modern Art are excellent, and Chippendale is probably very good. It is a bit older in the breeding assortment, but it's still a really reliable, healthy, and really black spot free rose. But a lot of people will claim Chippendale has scent. It doesn't really. It has beautiful flowers, a compact shape, lasts a long time, but it has a very faint scent. I would say about a 4 out of 10. So don't buy it for scent, like some channels will claim there's a lot of scent to Chippendale. There's sadly not. It's an amazing rose, but not a lot of scent. So let's go back to our list here and see what's next. Yeah, the next one is Codès roses, and if I had to say what breeder is the most black spot friendly or black spot resistant, I would say that's definitely Codès roses. Codès roses is probably the rose breeder that gets the least black spot, and after that I would say Tantau, and then I would probably say the Danish breeder Poulsen, and then I would say I'm a bit in doubt if the Serbian rose company Fiorentino or Milan scores next. Milan has made so many roses, so that is kind of unknown for me, but I would definitely place Austin last when it comes to black spot resistance. So, but yeah, let's go back here and let's go over Codès roses. And the first Codès rose I think is really black spot resistant is a rose called Feuillis. Fiorellis is really healthy. It has these dark shiny leaves, and it is a really black spot resistant rose for me. Really healthy. It tends to bloom in flushes, like it gives you like, I would say when they get old, they give you about 3 solid flushes. When they're younger plants, they tend to do 2. But they get absolutely covered in blooms in those flushes, and it's a really healthy plant. Not as fragrant. If you're more for fragrance, you will have to go towards blackberry nib or Goethe. So yeah, and I also have a rose coming up. I think is fragrant enough for me to recommend it in the future, and that is Laudatio. But let's continue here. The next one I will recommend is Bliss Parfuma. Bliss Parfuma is another extremely healthy Cordes rose, and really wonderful healthy rose. So Bliss Parfuma should definitely be on your list, if not only for the color. It has a really beautiful color too. So I can definitely recommend Bliss Parfuma for health. There's so many good options in the Cordes assortment that it's actually kind of hard for me to recommend anything in particular, because a lot of Cordes roses do really amazingly on black spot resistance. The only problem with Cordes roses is, as I've said before, is sometimes the Parfuma collection can be a bit slow on the budding phase, like how fast they develop the rose flower, and that can sometimes be a weakness if you live in a very wet environment where they can get destroyed, wiped out. But as far as black spot on leaf go, Cordes rose is definitely the best for that. But that is not said that some of the other companies can't have 1 or 2 or 3 or sometimes 5 to 6 roses that are extremely black spot resistant. So what I'm talking about is just a generalization, and in my opinion, I would say the general tendency is for Cordes roses to be the most black spot resistant. And let's go back to our list here, and let's just have a check who's next. The next one is Milan roses. Now, Milan roses has some fantastic choices. Let's just go over here and see again what we have for Milan roses. You of course have a very famous one, Bonica. Bonica is this really easy to care for plant that's just constantly covered in blooms and rarely gets diseases, black spot or anything. It's one of those roses, if you had a communal park or you had a public space, that will be a really good rose, easy maintenance to plant. Extremely healthy rose and extremely floriferous. So it is definitely a rose you can consider if you're trying to have a low maintenance garden. And let's just see what the next one on my list is. The next one is Leonardo da Vinci. Yeah, Leonardo da Vinci is another really floriferous rose, but it is floriferous in a way that's a bit different, because it tends to do these huge flushes where it simply gets covered, and the roses tend to last a long time. It's just like Chippendale also lasts a long time on the rose blooms, and Leonardo da Vinci lasts a long time. It can last like 2 to 3 weeks when it really gets growing, but it tends to bloom in flushes. But as far as black spot resistance, it is an extremely black spot resistant rose, and it is also really healthy. Not a lot of fragrance on it, nearly no fragrance, but if you want something that gets absolutely covered in blooms and gives you, like, I would say about 3 flushes on average, but where it gets really covered, it is a wonderful rose for that. And let's just see here what the next rose is. The next rose is a bit stepped down from Bonica and Leonardo da Vinci. It is a Eden rose. Now, Eden rose or Pierre de Ronsard or Willestrup or any of the other 12 names it has nearly It's an amazing disease-resistant rose. It can grow a bit slow the first 1 to 2 years it's in the ground, but it'll turn into a really amazing climber the longer you leave it in the ground, and it can absolutely get covered in blooms. Blooms tend to last a long time, like 3 weeks. Not a lot of scent on it though, nearly no scent. But this wonderful color change from lime at the outer petal to a bit white to this really pink color. So it has this really layered cake effect that I like. It is a beautiful flower in every way. But it is also very good for black spot resistance and a very healthy climber. So definitely consider that, even though Bonnie Cat and Leonardo da Vinci is probably a little bit more black spot resistant. We're talking again 5% like we're doing going from Olivia Rose Austin to Princess Anne and Silas Marner, but it's really a good rose. And the last one I'm going to highlight is one that can be extremely healthy if you treat it the right way, and that is Princess Charlene de Monaco rose. It is actually a really hardy rose and a really healthy rose. As long as you don't stress it too much, it'll do just as fine as the other ones. But what you really get with this one is it is really hardy. I think last time I checked, it was hardy down to a zone 4. It is really healthy also. Maybe not excellent like the others, but it is very good at least, for sure. And amazing fragrance, 9 out of 10 on fragrance. The only problem I'll highlight with this rose is it can sometimes get a bit tall. So it's not a rose you want to plant at the foreground of a rose bed because it does get tall. So you want something in front of it that kind of makes for a natural height progression and covers the base of the stems with some leaves so it looks more natural full. Another thing to sometimes consider with black spot is also placement. Like the more wind you give a plant, the more you thin it out in the middle, the better it will do on black spot, because the problem with black spot is often rain and especially during nighttime and where you have this really wet, moist environment with a lot of darkness. If the rose has a lot of petals, leaf on it, and it kind of clumps together into this wet mess during nighttime, that's when it can get really dangerous with black spot development, because black spot development is a fungal spore that's in the air. You can try to remove it with a light sulfur mixture. And in the old days, roses actually rarely got black spot because there was so much sulfur in the air because of chimneys. It is really because our air is less polluted nowadays that you see a lot of black spot problems, because you don't have a lot of sulfur in the air anymore. But yeah, you can get rid of. You can try to avoid black spot in a garden and try to remove the leaves and burn them and pick them off the plant when you spot black spot, but you're never going to get a completely free black spot environment. It is simply impossible, because black spot is always in the air and it will always be there. And if you leave the leaf from last year on the ground, you can potentially infect your rose again. So do remember to get rid of the old black spot leaf. And maybe I should show you how black spot looks, because some of you might not know what black spot is. As you can see, black spot is this fungal disease that attacks roses, and they get these yellow leaves that die off and fall off, and you are left with these ugly canes. So for aesthetic reasons, that is why we try to limit black spot. And the roses will nearly always survive black spot. It's not that dangerous to them, but for aesthetical pleasing reasons, we tend to want to avoid it on our roses. So let's go back here to the list. Yeah, I also have some honorable mentions. There's one rose in particular I think does very well on health and also on black spot in general. It is the rose that is called Julia Child. Julia Child. In some places, it is also called Absolutely Fabulous. And rose breeders really need to stop doing this with all names. Sometimes they give the same rose, as I said before, 8 to 12 names, and then it's just difficult to communicate with people from around the world. So that can be really difficult. But Julia Child is an amazing rose, a lot of wonderful flowers, and it has this wonderful color effect from very yellow to more cream. Well, it's kind of like nearly true yellow to amber to white, and has this really beautiful color progression when there's a lot of flower on it. It just looks amazing. It's very floriferous, very healthy. Can get a bit tall, but you will have no problem with it if you cut it the right way. But it's a beautiful rose, really healthy, and it definitely deserves a mention in this regard. And one thing I will mention is if you're in doubt about rose names and you want to look up some names, I'm telling you, you can go to the website Help Me Find. And in this website, Help Me Find, you can search for roses. So if we type in anything here, for example, if we typed in Julia Child, we would have gotten Absolutely Fabulous and all the other names up there. So let's just try that, Julia Child. As you can see here, we get all the names Absolutely Fabulous, and it's all these names, and we can do it for a ton of other roses. Let's just try Bonica. Yeah, Bonica doesn't have a lot of names. You can also see ratings and a lot of other different stuff in here. So if you're a rose geek, it's a really good website to get familiar with for sure. So that was really it for today, guys. And I'll be making more videos for you in the future. So remember to subscribe and stay tuned.